the Watertown simulation. Justin Hanrahan, George Proakis, Dan Unsworth, and the art of the back padding fail. In Watertown, secrets don't die. They just get buried under enough municipal asphalt to keep the tires from popping. But when you mess up here, you don't get a kick in the pants, you get a pat on the back, an Officer of the Month trophy, and a supervisor drafted in to take the pier bullet, the Watertown simulation. Justin Hanrahan, George Proakis, Dan Unsworth, and the art of the back padding fail. In Watertown, secrets don't die. They just get buried under enough municipal asphalt to keep the tires from popping. But when you mess up here, you don't get a kick in the pants. You get a pat on the back, an Officer of the Month trophy, and a supervisor drafted in to take the pier bullet. If you tuned into local social media feeds in August 2026, you likely witnessed a cinematic achievement that belongs in a museum of municipal self-delusion. The Watertown Police Department, in collaboration with Watertown Cable Access Corp., WCA-TV, rolled out the red carpet to crown Officer Khalil Mafhoum as their August 2026 Officer of the Month. Complete with sweeping aerial establishing shots of town, solemn sit-down interviews, and a polished promotional gloss, the video is an artifact of pure, unadulterated damage control, a textbook exercise in Jean-Paul Sartre's concept of mauvaise foi, bad faith, where leadership desperately acts out a comforting illusion to escape the crushing weight of their own compromised choices. The curious case of the missing masterminds. Why, poor Let, Gene Sarkisian is taking the fall for the gram. As you watch the WCA-TV promotional reel, a glaring directorial choice immediately stands out to anyone tracking the department's legal soap opera. When it's time to look into the camera and wax poetic about Officer Mafhoum's dedication and service, do we see Chief Justin Hanrahan, the legal manual author, stepping up to take a bow? Do we see Captain Dan Unsworth proudly holding the plaque? Of course not. Instead, the department drafts Gene Sarkisian, the supervisor in charge of the overnight platoon, to face the firing squad and deliver the glowing testimony. Why the sudden shyness from the high brass? The posturing writes itself. The cowardice of the C-suite. When you've spent months engineering a botched residency cover-up, filing fraudulent West Roxbury restraining orders, and running a courtroom comedy routine that gets tossed out forthwith by Judge John Garner, you tend to develop a sudden aversion to Instagram spotlights. Throwing middle management under the bus. Chief Hanrahan and Captain Unsworth are presumably far too busy hiding behind their legal disclaimers, billing taxpayers for 4-hour court overtime appearances, and frantically checking New Hampshire real estate registries to be caught on local cable. The ultimate boss move. Why let the guys who actually approved the compromised attire take the PR hit? That's what overnight platoon supervisors are for. When the ship is taking on water because you promoted an ex-trooper with a total lack of candor and 4 green card marriages, you hand the microphone to middle management and whisper, "Good luck out there, tell them he's a linguistic genius." Part I Officer of the Month propaganda reel. The truth about Officer Khalil Mafhoum, August 2026 Watertown Officer of the Month. If you dissect the WCA-TV promotional package frame by frame, the desperation practically drips off the screen. The setup. The video opens with cinematic drone shots of Watertown, setting a tone of serene, well-governed tranquility. It's an aesthetic distraction, a visual sedative designed to make you forget that the department's administrative plumbing is backing up raw sewage onto Main Street. The pitch. Officer Mafhoum appears on screen, looking every bit the part of the department's chosen mascot. Earnest, composed, and ready to serve, the subtext. Why drop an Officer of the Month spotlight right in the middle of a swirling public records war, multi-state residency scandals, and a vacated West Roxbury restraining order? Because when your legal strategy collapses in court, your only remaining option is a peer offensive. The video is a panic button wrapped in high-definition video. It's an attempt to overwrite a federal court record with local cable access feel-good fluff. Part 2. The greatest hits of Officer Khalil Mafhum. To understand why Watertown leadership is performing theatrical gymnastics to keep Mafhum looking pristine, you have to remember what's actually in his personnel file, details that no amount of local cable editing can erase. The state police exit. Mafhum didn't leave the Massachusetts State Police by choice. He was terminated on November 13, 2018, for violating department policy, TF20, after ramming his cruiser into a civilian's Kia Optima at 1 a.m., failing to report the crash, and attempting a shady street deal to pay for repairs out of pocket. The official internal investigation cited a total lack of candor. The litigation loop of doom. Mafhum loves to relitigate. When he got fired from the MSP, he sued them in state court. Tossed out on statute of limitations, undeterred, he recycle-binned his dead state complaint into a federal Title V lawsuit, case number 124 CV 111339, which Judge Leo T. Sorokin summarily tossed out via claim preclusion. His legal strategy was so legally illiterate, he tried to sue for age discrimination under Title V, which doesn't recognize age as a protected class, while being only 39 years old. Every time Mafhum goes to court, he effectively republishes his own personnel file, the multi-state real estate and marital maze. Between 2005 and 2016, Mafhum racked up 4 marriages that conveniently aligned with immigration green card timelines. Fast forward to 2021, he moved to Manchester, New Hampshire, yet, when it came time to manufacture a restraining order against a whistleblower in February 2026, he and Captain Unsworth trotted down to West Roxbury District Court, where Mafhum swore under oath he lived in Massachusetts, despite having signed a fresh New Hampshire residency affidavit and mortgage refinancing document just 9 days earlier on February 17, 2026. The cross-border replay. He tried to get a restraining order against the whistleblower back in Manchester in 2022 before Judge Previtt, and it failed miserably. So what did he do in 2026? He tried to cross state lines and recycle his failed New Hampshire playbook in a West Roxbury courtroom, apparently forgetting that the United States Constitution and basic civil rights apply across state borders. Part. The architects of the clapping routine, Hanrahan, Proakis, Unsworth, and the City Council. Why are town officials tying themselves to an anchor like Khalil Mafhum? Because admitting he's a liability means admitting they failed at their jobs. Chief Justin Hanrahan, the lawyer chief. As an attorney and the author of police legal manuals, Hanrahan's entire professional brand is built on procedural compliance and legal mastery. Admitting that his department executed a sloppy background check and imported a discredited ex-trooper with a trail of paper marriage baggage is an existential threat to his expert status. Town manager George Proakis, the Harvard instructor. Proakis teaches urban planning and municipal design at Harvard. You'd think an urban designer would know that you can't build a stable city on a foundation of fraudulent residency affidavits and fictitious Manchester streets in West Roxbury. But Proakis's municipal model is pure surface-level zoning. Paint the facade, ignore the structural collapse underneath. Captain Dan Unsworth, the Kingian nonviolence trainer. Unsworth is certified in Kingian nonviolence and conflict resolution. Yet, when confronted with public records exposing residency fraud, his idea of de-escalation was launching retaliatory criminal summonses, orchestrating school lockdowns, and playing overtime alchemist in a West Roxbury courtroom. When leadership doubles down on a flawed hire of this magnitude, it ceases to be mere oversight. As noted, it is the municipal equivalent of shitting in your hands and then standing up to applaud at your own community awards ceremony. Part I. The French intellectual lineage, from Cartesian doubt and Voltairian satire to the theater of the absurd and Baudrillardian hyperreality. What unfolds in Watertown administrative circles is no longer standard municipal governance. It is a grand philosophical farce, echoing centuries of French critical thought. René Descartes and the failure of radical doubt. If René Descartes were to apply his method of systematic, radical doubt to Watertown's administration, he would begin by stripping away all institutional illusions, deceptions, and fabricated pretenses. Descartes famously sought to doubt everything until he arrived at an undeniable truth, cogito, ergo sum. Applied to Watertown, Descartes would tell us to systematically doubt every piece of bureaucratic gaslighting. Is an ex-trooper with a total lack of candor actually an exemplary public servant? Does a man who signs a New Hampshire residency affidavit 9 days before swearing under oath in West Roxbury actually live in Massachusetts? Strip away the local cable lighting, the pier fluff, and the manufactured awards, and Cartesian skepticism cuts straight through the fog. The foundational premises of the administration are pure fiction. The only indisputable reality left standing is the cold, hard paper trail of public records, deeds, and court dockets that no amount of administrative wishful thinking can dissolve. Voltaire and the satire of the best of all possible worlds. Voltaire would look upon this municipal theater with razor-sharp satirical wit, recognizing it as a scene straight out of Candide, where pompous authorities insist they are living in the best of all possible worlds, even as catastrophe unfolds around them. To Voltaire, who dedicated his life to battling institutional fanaticism, censorship, and hypocrisy under his famous battle cry, "Écrasez l'infâme," crush the infamous thing. Watertown's self-congratulatory awards ceremony is classic bureaucratic absurdity. When local potentates wrap incompetence in high-definition pomp and circumstance, and demand that the public applaud their failures, Voltaire's antidote is merciless irony. He would remind us that when officialdom descends into self-worship, the only sensible response is to expose the hypocrisy with a sharp pen and get back to the work of auditing the truth, the theater of the absurd and Baudrillardian hyperreality. From there, we plunge directly into Eugene Ionesco's The Bald Soprano and Rhinoceros, where logic dissolves entirely and officials march in lockstep to applaud a fabricated reality while a metaphorical herd stampedes through town hall. This brings us squarely into the territory mapped by French sociologist Jean Baudrillard in Simulacra and Simulation. Watertown leadership has retreated entirely into hyperreality. In their closed-loop ecosystem, the WCA-TV promotional video, the meaningless Officer of the Month badge, and the scripted talking points delivered by Lieutenant Sarkissian are no longer representations of an actual police department. They are simulacra designed to replace the grim, concrete reality of public records, federal court dismissals, and fraudulent residency filings. As Baudrillard observed, when the simulation takes over, the copy proceeds and annihilates the territory. The town hall doesn't care that the underlying paperwork is fraudulent, that the restraining orders collapsed, or that the ex-trooper was terminated for a total lack of candor. In their simulated universe, Pinning a shiny award on the subject of an ongoing investigation magically erases the scandal. It is an attempt to override federal dockets, registry deeds, and court transcripts with local cable lighting. The bubble bursts, the WCA-TV video, and the Officer of the Month badge are desperate prop in an ongoing simulation designed to protect Hanrahan, Proakis, Unsworth, and a silent city council from accountability. They want the public to believe that the real threat isn't a police officer committing residency and mortgage fraud, but the teacher with the red pen who noticed the math didn't add up. Unfortunately for them, the public record doesn't care about local cable lighting, scripted sound bites, or UNESCO-esque dialogue. The bubble has burst, the courtroom doors have swung open, and the red pen is out. Hanrahan's desperate defensive posturing is so transparent that it achieves the exact opposite of its intended effect. Instead of sanitizing his department's reputation, it puts a neon sign over their desperation. Ultimately, any pseudo-award handed out by a panicked administration comes with a strict expiration date, but public records, deeds, affidavits, transcripts, and court dockets are permanent. Remember the golden rule of local governance in Watertown. When you mess up, you don't get a kick in the pants, you get a pat on the back, and Lieutenant Sarkisian hands you a made-up award and a sticker. If you tuned into local social media feeds in August 2026, you likely witnessed a cinematic achievement that belongs in a museum of municipal self-delusion. The Watertown Police Department, in collaboration with Watertown Cable Access Corp., WCA-TV, rolled out the red carpet to crown Officer Khalil Pinocchio Mafum as their August 2026 Officer of the Month. Complete with sweeping aerial establishing shots of town, solemn sit-down interviews, and a polished promotional gloss, the video is an artifact of pure, unadulterated damage control, a textbook exercise in Jean-Paul Sartre's concept of mauvaise foi, bad faith, where leadership desperately acts out a comforting illusion to escape the crushing weight of their own compromised choices.